The thing that they tell us not to do is exactly the thing that God has given us that leads us towards healing. Let me repeat myself. The thing that they told us not to do, don't feel, don't be emotional, don't let your emotions have control, right? Is the very thing, the mechanism that God has given us in order to find healing, to find freedom, to find deliverance. And most of us, at least I know, I've been struggling for so many years, trying to have enough faith, trying to pray enough, trying to be a good Christian woman to live a life that I've been dreaming about. Hey there, welcome to the Girl Just Feel podcast, where faith meets mental health and healing starts with feeling your feelings. I'm your host, Dr. Ajene Gaylord, and like you, I have been the overwhelmed one. I wear a lot of hats, have a lot of titles, but more than any of that, I've been exhausted, stressed out, and you might be like me and look like you have it all together on the outside, but on the inside, you're probably quietly falling apart. I've come to discover that that is not unique just to me. I used to think I was in it by myself. I used to think I was the only one suffering this way, dealing with survival mode, and never feeling like I could get it all done. So I started this podcast, number one, out of obedience because I wasn't interested in turning on a microphone or a camera. And if you listen to the last episode, I shared just a little bit about how hesitant I was to even begin this journey. But here I am. Here you are. If you're watching or you're listening, something drew you to this podcast. And so I want you to know that this podcast exists because I believe that healing starts with something that we've kind of been told we shouldn't do. And that's to feel, to be emotional, to be in our feelings, right? And that's exactly what we're going to be doing here, what we're going to be talking about and covering over these episodes. So I know you see my t-shirt. Obviously, it's pretty, it's pretty obvious here that it says, get emotional. The don't is crossed out. So if you're listening to the audio version, clearly you can't see it, but basically what it says is don't get emotional, but the don't is crossed out in a red X. And why do I wear this? This is going to be my uniform for the podcast. Part of that was to remove some of the fear and anxiety about even being on camera, to simplify the process and just wear the same shirt. And I wanted to share a message, even if I don't say it every episode, that would carry forward, that the thing that they tell us not to do is exactly the thing that God has given us that leads us towards healing. Let me repeat myself. The thing that they told us not to do, don't feel, don't be emotional, don't let your emotions have control, right? Is the very thing, the mechanism that God has given us in order to find healing, to find freedom, to find deliverance. And most of us, at least I know, I've been struggling for so many years, trying to have enough faith, trying to pray enough, trying to be a good Christian woman to live a life that I've been dreaming about. So what I want to unpack is more than just the fact that we're dealing with these different issues. Like, one of the things that I was so challenged with is chronic physical or medical symptoms. So I was always running back and forth to the doctor, had new symptoms popping up, things they couldn't explain, things they didn't have a diagnosis for. And I'll talk more about that in the future. But what that was showing me, what I came to learn so much later on, was that was the very thing calling my attention to the need that I have that I wasn't paying attention to. Because probably like you, I've been, whether it was socialized in this direction or even subconsciously kind of told to not give over to how I'm feeling, to not pay attention to it. And even if it wasn't explicitly stated, it was absolutely modeled to stuff it down, push it away, don't deal with it, because number one, If you allow yourself to go there, you're going to lose control and it's going to be overwhelming and you'll never stop crying. Like if you start to cry, you'll never stop. Like that's the idea. Even though we know that's not true, that's what we believe. And if you give yourself over to your emotions, you'll lose control and you won't be able to come back from it, or you'll do something you shouldn't do, or you'll explode. But the truth is, the more we press down, the more we push our emotions down, the more we push our feelings down, the more likely it is that the pressure is going to build up so much that that's when the explosion happens. It's not in facing the feelings, it's not in dealing with the emotion. And I'm going to define both of those things because they are interrelated concepts, but they are not the same. So I think it's more of a matter of, I just want to share the revelation that I've received and kind of where I am in my journey. And hopefully that helps you. Hopefully you find some insight in what I'm sharing, and hopefully that brings you to a place of freedom too. So let's get started. Today, I want to just break down, without, going too much further, the fact that emotions and feelings are two different interrelated things. When we talk about getting emotional, most of the time that has a negative connotation. We always say things like, well, don't be emotional, be rational, right? We almost make it seem like emotions are quote unquote negative or bad and can't be trusted. And our thoughts and thinking and our reason and our rationality is better for us, especially when we're making decisions. Like if you think about making a decision about a big move you're going to have, or a decision about a job you might take, or whether or not you're going to do this thing or that thing. Most of the time we're told, don't be emotional, take your emotions out of it. Oh, that's a phrase that really gets my gander. I don't even know if people say that anymore. But anyway, mostly what we understand or what we believe is that emotions are a bad thing that we need to push to the side or get rid of so that we can be more decisive, be rational, and make better decisions, have better relationships. So get rid of your emotions. Don't be emotional. That's kind of like the idea. When in all actuality, what we're actually saying is control the emotions that you have. Don't let emotions take over. You get control of them. That means you command them and make them do what you want them to do. But breaking news, you cannot control your emotions. I know. That's saying a lot. I know that you're looking at me in this screen or listening to me and saying, girl, what is she talking about? No, you can't control your emotions any more than you can control your digestive system. Right? Do you have control over how the food moves down your esophagus down into your stomach and starts to break down? Do you have control over that? Because if we have the proper definition of emotions, we'll recognize that the statement I made is true. What are emotions actually? Well, emotions are bodily experiences. Emotions are bodily movements that alert us that some type of stimulus is drawing our attention and helping us to make meaning out of what's happening. Let me repeat myself. Emotions are a bodily sensation, a bodily experience. That means what we often identify as emotions are actually feelings. When we talk about sadness, joy, anger, those are feelings. Emotions are what our body does to alert us that something is happening that we then decide means that's how I feel. Let me give you an example. Let's say I'm about to go up to give a speech, or let's say I'm turning on this camera and this microphone to start this podcast, and I have all of this stuff going on, and suddenly my heart starts beating a little bit faster. My stomach is feeling like what they call butterflies. I might even have sweaty palms, even though I don't sweat. I might, start feeling a little sweat in my palms. What would that be called? I have a heart that's fluttering, I have a little bit of queasiness in my stomach. And because I'm about to do something that, might be intimidating to me or might make me feel one way or another, then I tell myself, or I look at the circumstances and I pay attention to what's happening and I decide I'm nervous. Well, let's say I'm getting ready to do something else and I start having these little heart palpitations or flutters in my heart, and my stomach is feeling a little bit of butterflies and I'm feeling a little bit sweaty. Am I nervous? No. I'm actually about to walk across the stage for my graduation day and I'm really excited. Now, those two examples are very basic. And because emotions, emotional experiences, feelings, our whole emotional life is very complex and it involves our inner man and our outer being, we've for many, many years have had incomplete understanding of what we're actually talking about. So the examples that I gave really explain that I can have the same bodily experience. I can have the same movement happening in my body, this energy that's moving through my body, alerting me that something is happening that's drawing my attention to it. But the meaning that I make out of it actually ends up being two different things. Same bodily experience, same heart flutters, same butterflies in my stomach, same sweaty palms, but because of the stimulus, the thing that's happening either inside or outside of me, and based on my experience and my history and my past and the belief system that I carry, then I decide what that means for me. So, me turning on my camera, turning on my microphone, having this quote unquote nervousness, the feeling that I have is nervousness. Feeling is not the emotion. The feeling that I have before I walk across the stage for graduation is excitement and anticipation, but the emotion or the bodily alert is the same. Heart flutters, butterflies in my stomach, and sweaty palms. So when I say explicitly that we cannot control our emotions, what I'm saying is we don't get to decide what our body does in response to internal and external stimulus. We get to notice it and we then get to determine what it means. And that's what feelings are. Feelings are what we have determined this emotion, this bodily experience, how it fits into a category. So it's either anger or it's joy or it's frustration or it's anticipation or it's excitement, fill in the blank. So when we talk about emotions and when we talk about controlling our emotions, what we're really trying to say is we want to have more quote unquote control over how we feel. That's really what we mean. But because we have a incomplete, let me say it that way, not a misunderstanding, but we have an incomplete understanding of emotions, feelings, moods, all of these things, we often find ourselves misapplying the idea that emotions can be controlled or that emotions are feelings. So now that we've covered that part, let me explain how I kind of came to this understanding. And it took a long time, very, very long time. And I'm still unpacking. I don't know everything about this. I know what I've recently learned, what I've recently discovered, but there's a whole lot to uncover. And we'll never exhaust all that there is to know and understand because we are finite. That means our knowledge and information is limited. God is infinite, meaning his knowledge, all that he knows, all that he is much bigger and much more vast than we could ever imagine. And so because we have a limited understanding, we're only going to know and understand so much. But I'm grateful for us having language now. We have vocabulary, we have understanding. There's so much more data available to us and knowledge that's available to us. So we do have some measure of information. But even with our limited scope, we can still have a good enough understanding of these concepts to begin to live a life that is free from myths that keep us bound. Okay. I remember being on a flight with my husband. I don't remember where we were going. And as you know, when you're on a plane, some people are really nervous about flying. I mean, if you just think about that were flying through the air in a big old metal tube at fast speeds. I mean, a lot of people get nervous. I'm not a traditional nervous flyer. I'm okay. But I really don't like the sensation where my body feels weightless or like I'm off the ground. So I still haven't learned how to swim. I'm going to learn. I haven't learned yet, but my goal is to learn how to swim. So anyway, back to the story about the plane. So we're on this plane, we're flying somewhere, and we hit turbulence, right? So it happens. So basically, we're in the air, and then you kind of drop up and down, and so there's some measure of feeling like you're falling, just briefly. So your plane's going up and down, all that. So we hit a little bit of turbulence, and it wasn't horrible, but it was kind of making me nervous, right? My heart is kind of dropping a little bit, and I'm kind of bracing myself and preparing for this sensation. And I look over at my husband, and he is Mr. Cool. Now, if you know him, you know that nothing moves him. He's super, super laid back kind of guy. Doesn't get rattled. I, on the other hand, am very high strung. I can get anxious very quickly. And so we're like, the opposites of two extremes. So we're on this plane. We start experiencing this turbulence, and I'm getting nervous and I'm getting really scared. And I look over at him, and he seems real cool. He was reading maybe a book or something, had something and he looked unbothered, totally unbothered. And I looked at him with confusion on my face. Like I looked like, what? So I look at him, I was like, aren't you afraid? He was like, no, because I know who's in control. Something happened in that moment. My body responded to the words he said. And suddenly, the sensations I was having I can't even remember all that was happening. Probably my throat got a little bit dry. And of course, I had a little bit of racing heart in the moment because, of course, the plane is going up and down, and I'm feeling some type of way about, oh, no, something's going to happen. And I got this tension in my muscles. That's a huge emotion for me, is muscle tension. So my muscles were tense. I probably was grabbing onto the side of the chair. He, on the other hand, his emotion or his bodily experience was very relaxed. He was in a state of, homeostasis, if you want to put it that way, which just means back to balance. So he said those words, and then my body responded to what he said, and I relaxed. Now, I didn't tell myself to relax. I didn't control my relaxation. I had an automatic reaction to a new stimulus, which was what he said to me. So I was having this bodily reaction to what was happening. And when he said those words to me, my body responded to that stimulus. Now, I didn't tell myself not to relax. I didn't tell my muscles to kind of loosen up and not be so tense. I didn't tell my heart to slow back to a normal pace, but the emotion automatically reacted to the stimulus. What was the stimulus? What he said. I knew who's in control. And because of my experience, my belief system in God, and I understood what he was saying or suggesting, I had an automatic, almost instant reaction. And then I made the decision to agree with what my body had just done automatically. Wait, did you catch it? Not only did I have an automatic or almost instant reaction that my body went through, but then I made a decision to agree, which helped my body to stay more regulated or to stay less tense or to remain or stop experiencing those emotions of the heart kind of racing a little bit and my muscles tensing up, right? Because what I began to feel was safe. When he made the statement to me, I realized, oh, he's right. God is in control. We do know who's running this show. And even if the plane did go down, God is still in control of that. Now, it didn't. Clearly, I'm sitting here in front of you, or you're listening to me share, so you know that the plane didn't go down. But the fact that I even told myself that it could, and this is what led my body to have the reactions and to express the emotion, is I had already rehearsed all the bad stuff that could happen if the turbulence continued and the plane went down. I was already, planning my funeral and trying to figure out, Lord, I'm sure we had children at that point. So I was already trying to figure out who's going to take care of my kids. Like, I talked myself into being terrified about the experience I was having. Now, I'm not saying that we can never feel those feelings. Obviously, we're going to feel fear. We're going to feel the spectrum of feelings that exist throughout our lives. What I am saying, though, is as much as we try to tell ourselves that we need to control our quote unquote emotions or control what we feel, really what we need to do is to pay attention and then make a decision. When he told me that, I know who's in control. That immediately gave my soul rest. And I began to agree with what he said. God is in control. And no matter what happens, it's going to be whatever he has already ordained to be. So it's going to be okay. And I got to relax. And the plane kept going up and down. We still had a little bit more turbulence. But my response, my reaction, the way that I then moved forward in that experience was completely different than how it started. So why am I saying all of this to you? Well, because I've had to walk through this myself, where I had to really begin to accept that although I had been for years and years and years trying with all of my might to deal with these physical symptoms that I was having that was causing my quality of life to be challenged. I was a young woman in my all started probably, sometime in college. I think actually in high school. So most of my adult life, young adult life for sure, but only increased as I got older. I started having different symptoms that would lead to a poor quality of life, no energy, pain, chronic pain was a huge one. So I'm dealing with this and I'm young and I'm starting to have this family and I'm trying to live my life and I'm trying to keep up with my responsibilities and my body wasn't letting me. I was just facing all of these problems. And over the years, many more years later, what I came to realize was the more I would strive to try to quote unquote control what was happening, the more symptoms I would have and the more emotion or feeling would manifest and I would find myself in a crisis. So I really wanted to just start out with explaining how we have misunderstood emotions. And it isn't that we can control them. It isn't that we can stop them. I think if we can change our relationship and our understanding about our emotions, we would be better positioned to then be able to heal, be able to regulate, be able to make those decisions and quote unquote be rational. We would be better able to just understand what our experiences are. And I think we'll give ourselves a little bit more grace than I think we've allowed ourselves. Now, I could just be speaking for myself, but I think that this might be resonating with you. We have misunderstood emotions. And my clarion call is for us to get emotional, to get in our feelings, to begin to understand and recognize the very way that God created us to experience and to express what it is that we are going through, what it is we are enduring, how we connect with others, how we connect with God. And as we start to get emotional, I think we will begin to unpack a future that is less overwhelming, less frustrating, less in survival mode, and we might just find the freedom we've been searching so hard for. Well, I'll save more for the next episode, and I like to share a little bit of life work. So for today, I would like you to just start paying attention to what you feel in your body. How about that? Don't try to qualify it. Don't judge it. Don't give it a category. Just start paying attention to what sensations are happening in your body. What's moving through you? What energy are you sensing? What's happening? Are you tensing up your muscles? Is your mouth getting dry? Is your throat tightening? Is your chest feeling heavy? Is your stomach have flutters? Is your heart, racing or even slowing down? So there's lots of ways that our bodies alert us to the stimulus all around us, internal and external. And I just want you to start paying attention. Notice, what are the different sensations that your body is having? Don't judge it. Don't categorize it. Don't qualify it. Just start to get emotional. See you next time.